Hello, everyone. You're listening to week 44 of Monday Night Chats with Dazz, and it's hard to believe, but we are at the 1 year mark, which means that we've come full circle, which is amazing. And I'm just checking in the chat here, and I see What is the Matrix, Perpetuant, and Walk in Truth. Hi to all of you. And I see that What is the Matrix said, "Oh God, thou art my God, we lift up Sister Dazz and ask you to bless her in what she shares this evening. Fill her with strength and energy and joy. Bless her for her service and bless our eyes and our ears as we chat and hear." Thank you so much for praying that. What is the Matrix? It's so important. And I've talked to Walk about this off the channel and even on the channel about the importance of even opening with prayer. And I haven't opened with prayer the last few times I've done streams, but I know before I get on air, I always try to say a prayer. Hi, Andrew C. How are you? I hope everyone that's in the chat right now and who's listening is having an awesome week. We are into September now, and it's weird because last year I missed the first week of September also streaming, which is weird to think about now. Hi, Josh S. and hi, Nathaniel Hoffman. Josh S. said, "It's been a while since I've been here. Congrats on the 1 year." Yeah, it has been a while since I've seen you, and thanks. Hi, Aya, Makeda, Mott. And Andrew C. said, "I won't be here for long because of school work, sadly." It's all good. You gotta put schoolwork first, and whenever you have it, it can really stack up on you. And even speaking of schoolwork, even with my job, I have a presentation tomorrow, which I wasn't anticipating. And so even after you get out of school, you'll never run from group presentations and projects. Hi, Joe00UK. How are you? It's good to see everyone in here today. And as always, I really fast will look at any comments from the week. If my memory serves correct, I know that the last video that I put out was about the wolf cryptid in Montana, but before that week, since I skipped a week of streaming, I actually did a video also on learning not to worry about tomorrow, and it looks like there are some comments here. I'll just go over them briefly and then jump back in the chat. And any questions or anything you want to talk about, the floor is yours. But Jack Bittered Hug said, "When you have a good heart, you help too much, you trust too much, you give too much, you love too much, and it always seems to hurt the most. Keep your chin up, sis. You're cherished by your father." And that was really nice of him to say, and I forgot I'm not sharing the screen with you guys, which I usually remember to do, but hopefully you guys can now see the comment section. And then Nick C said, Don't worry though, Daz. I have a friend who's currently terrified because he's in graduate school and has a lot of student loan debt and doesn't know what's down the road. I think we all go through these experiences, especially transitioning to adulthood." And for those of you who missed the video a couple weeks ago, pretty much I shared how I had been dealing with a lot of angst about the future and how we really have to think about not worrying about tomorrow, but really putting our trust in God, even when it feels like it's so much more than you can bear. And I'm glad that he brought up that because, yeah, a lot of people, especially in this kind of awkward stage in life, everything's happening between the ages of like 18 and 25. People are graduating high school, college, marrying, having their first serious relationships, children, everything, starting families, going and getting education, working their first serious jobs, and a lot can happen. And even if you're past that age, just we hit points in life where a lot of transition can really throw us for a loop. And like Nick was talking about with his friend, you know, I've heard lots of people who've gone on to graduate school or some kind of pre-professional school, not really sure if that's what they wanted to do. And the debt is just crazy. I remember the days when I wanted to go to medical school, and I plan for it. And I can remember learning that like I'd be about $1 million in debt. Of course, you make so much money as a doctor, you can over time pay it off, but still, that is a lot of money. And Nixie also said, I plan on working until my 40s. 20 years is enough, and that's it. And that focusing on spreading the gospel. And I think that's really awesome that Nick wants to spread the gospel as he gets, closer to his 40s. And there's so much you can do even now. Eddie Forehand said, I really need to hear this. Thank you so much. God is the Alpha and the Omega. Children of God said, I pray you find a job. Love it. Sucks. I know I put on 40 pounds when I started full time after hairstylist school, and I was going to school 8 hours a day and working nights and weekends. Something about full time us. Hugs, dazzling one. You stay dazzling, beautiful. But yeah, I see what Lisa is saying is the stress can really get you, even health wise, whether you fluctuate from weight gain or weight loss. It's so important not to let it get us down, but sometimes it still can. Stephen Wilder said, very good scripture reference. Leave it all at his feet, at the cross. God bless. Richard Sidham said, good one today, Dazz. God bless you. Michael Angelo said, on this topic, was walking the block this week, met a homeless man speaking the same way. He had no worries, called those in car working 9 to 5 jobs in prison. Another Christian joined to listen. He seems a bit odd to me, but we are taught, don't worry, nothing's in control. And yeah, I mean, I can see where he's coming from. I mean, I feel like there is a such thing almost as wage slavery to some extent. Not that I'm advocating for not working a job, but I'm just saying that a lot of people are unhappy with what they're doing. Julie Moss said, thanks for sharing this with us. You made a lot of good points. God bless you, and see you soon in your stream a week from Monday. What a Weirdo said, well, there are 11 comments. The GT is here, said, congrats, Dazz. And Zero Sister said, was saying that God is Satan. Look it up. Christians need to love the Holy Family, the Father in heaven, the Son, Mother, Holy Spirit, who is inside you. We are here, this dark world, for good and light, which I disagree with there, but I know there are people that subscribe to that belief. And jumping back into the chat, because I felt like that was a lot of comments to read aloud. Before I go on to the next video, I'm going to see if anyone else has jumped in. Hi, Lisa. How are you? And I see that really fast. Make sure I'm not missing any comments. Hi, Black Rain. Hi, Nixie. How are you both? And I see that Walk asked, did anyone hear what Obama said, that we don't need a Messiah? I actually did not. I'll have to look that up, actually, now that you say that. I see right here. Let me see if I can go to the 35 seconds where he says it.
You cannot sit back and wait for a savior. You can't opt out because you don't feel sufficiently inspired by this or that particular candidate. This is not a rock concert. This is not Coachella. We don't need a Messiah. All we need are decent, honest, hardworking people who are accountable and who have America's best interests at heart.
And I see where Walk was saying about him saying that we didn't need a Messiah. And, definitely, some might argue he was talking about for the campaign, but I mean, you can easily interpret that as him going out against Jesus Christ as well. But that's very interesting that he did say that, because, all the years of people having dreams about him being the Antichrist, and I'm definitely saying a lot of Antichrist-like things. I just wanted to pull it up just, for audio and visual reference, but thank you, Walk, for bringing that up. And Joe said Obama likes to think of himself as the Messiah, and yeah, he's definitely, I mean, I think back to years ago when he was reading that scripture and the way he read it. Hi, Julie Moss. How are you? And I see Julie said, I got a lot of little things to do, so I'm fed listening. Will hopefully be able to chime in. And, every time everyone says like they have a lot to do and even just like having it on the background, that's always still great to hear that even you take the time to do that. What has the Matrix said? Is he referring to Beyonce in his speech? I'm not quite sure, but what you're saying does make me think about how there have been people who have talked about how I think there's like a church of Beyonce. Like some people really worship Beyonce. It's really weird how like people can take like a celebrity and try to like make them into an idol. But I guess it's not too far fetched because a lot of celebrities, they do rituals and basically they're modern high priest and priestesses, and many of them are mediums and conduits for unclean spirits. And hi, Stewie May, how are you? And Walk said that was said on purpose. I would say that it's very antichrist in him. And Julie Moss said, definitely listening to that was Oh No Obama. What has the Matrix said? Coachella. I think Coachella is like a giant music festival. I from what I know, and I think it happens around this time of year or in late summer. And Julie said Obama ticks her off. Stewie May said, happy 1 year anniversary. Wow, how time flies. Hi, self-contended. Lisa said he's scary, yikes. Julie said, thank creepy mass they had in Beyonce's name. God help us all. And what is the Matrix said? She just had a church service in San Francisco. There is a very serious issue with her. Let me look that up, actually, because, we have 2 hours, so why not? If there's a short clip. I don't want to, watch the whole thing. I just want to see a brief clip. If I can find it. Just seeing these, is it's just weird, that you have people that are actually worshiping her. But then again, it did say that a lot of people would give heed to seducing spirits in the last days, I guess even through pop stars and R&B artists, and it's just crazy to me. Wow, they're even playing her music at the services. That is just something else. I haven't been keeping up with it as much, but I remember when it was first announced there was going to be a church for her and how crazy that was, but to actually see it in full motion is just something else. Joshua said Obama during John McCain's funeral said that bloodlines don't matter and that we are all created equal. Kind of strange he used the terminology. Yeah, it is interesting. Especially when you consider even the theories about the bloodlines of the Illuminati and everything else, and just I don't know. Even I guess you can consider, I don't know, there's just a lot you can read into his words. Nixie said Obama don't want these spiritual hands. LOL. And Perpetuant said it's a giant devil worshipping music festival. Pretty much, yeah, that's Coachella in a nutshell. Lisa said, how do people honestly go to church to worship Beyonce? Ew, satanic. Yeah, I know. How can you worship another human being as it's just creepy. But, it seems like those who are giant fans of her really, I don't know, it's crazy. And what is the Matrix said? Image, Google it. And Hawk said, I know, right? When you say image, Google it. Image, Google the Beyonce church mass thing or Coachella, or I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Julie said, oh, yeah, it's very weird. Joe said, must have been a black mass. Walking True said, seducing spirits. Black Rain said, don't get worked up over one puppet in government or another puppet or get used like a puppet. Job 924. 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Very true. Lisa said, if your church does this, run out fast. Nixie said to Obama, you will see the Son of Man sitting in the right hand of power coming on the clouds of heaven. Stewie May said, Coachella has gone, I think. Very satanic festival. Tomorrowland Festival in Europe is even worse. What has the Matrix said? Beyonce Mass. Oh, you're right, Stewie. I think I'm mixing up Tomorrowland with Coachella because I remember from the days of watching a lot more conspiratainment videos. No knock against people that still make videos about celebrities. I just don't keep up anymore. I'm too old for it, I guess, now. I remember, like, yeah, it was Tomorrowland in September because even I don't want to open this can of worms, but it's nice to finally come to a September since like 2015 or 2014 where people aren't predicting that the world is going to come to an end and that there is going to be like a rapture this month and there is going to be like a massive disaster because that's been the last few Septembers since like 2014 is, the blood moons, the tetrad, the signs in heaven. And, a lot of it was odd. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's weird, but at the same time, people really ran with it. And I can remember like people like Renee M, which some people thought I sounded just like her, which I think is weird. I think it's just the fact she's soft spoken. But anyways, um, Renee M used I think a lot of clips from the Tomorrowland conference that concert that were like to say like, hey, the world might be getting ready to like come to an end in the rapture. But I remember like a lot of people in their like September videos about the world ending were using Tomorrowland references. And so I think I mixed that one up with Coachella as well. Hi Terry Jackson, how are you? And Terry said had an awesome rapture dream. Glad to hear that. And Joe said, don't worry, you're far from late. Yeah, I mean, you're only 18 minutes in. I've had people come in at like 7:55 or 8 or 9 and be like, hey, I'm sorry I missed the whole show. It's like, it's all right. Better late than never. Stewie May said, yeah, tomorrow's full of triangles if you get what I mean. Tomorrow's September 11th. Man, time flies. What is the Matrix said? Beyonce wore a robot outfit years ago. The outfit is from the old movie Metropolis. That movie is about a demonically possessed robot that uses her sexuality, singing and dancing to destroy mankind. I remember that Metropolis movie. I never saw it, but I think I remember it was like on TV one day, and I like completely changed the channel. I was a little kid, I had no interest whatsoever, and I've heard it's really satanic and bad. But to actually see like I remember like people comparing her outfit to that robot, and now that you've broken it down more, like the fact the robot was singing and dancing, that's even more alarming. Like I don't get how people over the years can't look at like the references that these celebrities have to movies and pop culture and not see the agenda. But then again, people say they're just being artistic, they're just channeling whatever. And even the words channeling, like we all know that's being a medium or getting in contact with the spirits. Speaking of that, I was at work today, and I work with some very interesting people, and one of my she's not my supervisor, but she's like kind of over me. She's like the coordinator. She was talking about like paranormal activity, and she was going ghost hunting, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh Lord, please don't go ghost hunting, that's horrible. But she was going ghost hunting, and she was talking about possession. She's like, do you believe in possession? And I was like, yeah, I do. But I didn't want to go into too much detail with her about it, but it's crazy. Like more and more people than I ever thought believe in this stuff. And I don't know why I'm going on a tangent now because I completely lost my train of thought of where I was going with it. But I think, yeah, I don't see how people can not see what these celebrities are up to And I see in the comment section, let me get back to what everyone's saying. Try not to skip any comments. If I do, I apologize to anyone. I do not mean to skip your comment. Lisa was replying to Walk about Burning Man's festival. And then what is the Matrix saying? Oh, Black Rain said, MAR. I'm trying to remember what that's short for. I'm so sorry. 1332. But of the day, that hour knoweth no man. Oh, Mark. Know the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Very true. Yeah, I mean, people throwing out those fake predictions. Some of it, I think, honestly, was COINTELPRO. I think they put people out there to say things, and I think some of it was just people who maybe were misguided. I think a lot of people want to be right, and they want the following, and it's crazy how like people could completely move back the dates year after year, and they still have a following, and people still defend them. Nathaniel Hoffman said Jesus' birthday tomorrow. That's right. I remember like hearing that he was born in the month of September actually. I know his birthday's not on Nimrod's on December 25th. My mom's birthday's on December 25th. It's kind of funny actually that his birthday would be in September. Terry said the dream was I don't know why I'm like completely reversing the word saw into was. Fun fact. But the dream was I saw white doves flying in the air and they were glowing, and I saw Christ on a cloud and he was surrounded by fire, and I saw people in white robes surrounded by Christ himself. That's a beautiful dream, Terry. And then what is the Matrix is saying super creepy. I'm not sure in what in response because we've talked about so much. And Terry said, I hear tomorrow's Christ's birthday. And Walk said, no ghost hunting, please. And Andrew C said, demon hunting, mess around and get possessed. Exactly. You know, I warned her. I was like, don't do it. You know, don't go ghost hunting. Like, just stay away from that stuff. She's like, but I'm not going to offend the spirits. You know, I'm really respectful. I won't mess with any great. I'm just like, you really need to stop. Like, no, don't do it. Don't do it, girl. Like, don't. But, you know, she, you know, has her own ideas about it. But, you know, this time of year, a lot of people, especially during Halloween time, they want to go to haunted houses. They want to go ghost hunting. They want a supernatural, spiritual experience. And I'm like, I don't want any more of those. I just want to get closer to Christ. But it's crazy how people seek it out. Like, they'll pay money to be scared. Walk said, I used to do that. Don't do it. Stewie May said, what do you think went on with Mac Miller's suicide? Oh, I'm glad you brought up Mac Miller. You know, I'm not the biggest conspiratainment truther out there, but I will say this. Nor was I really like a big Mac Miller fan or really into like that genre of music too much. I don't think most of these suicides are suicides. I think half of them are people being sacrificed. And, you know, I don't want to like point the finger too much, but I'll just say this that I find it really telling that, like, you know, he OD'd, and, you know, just a few months ago, back in May, him and Ariana Grande were an item and they suddenly broke up. And then she got with the guy she's with now. I don't remember his name, SNL guy. And, you know, her career has been taking off. Like, it's been even before this year. You know, she's really just making waves. And, you know, I think a lot of these people, they need a sacrifice. And, you know, we're coming up on, is it Maybone this time of year? I can't remember. I don't think, or is it Beltane? We're coming up on that time of year with the fall festivals where people sacrifice. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't sacrificed. And, you know, I'm not really the biggest into like rap and everything, secular rap at least. But I will say also that I think it's interesting because I heard that Post Malone, he was like, there was a plane that almost crashed with him in there, and then a car accident. Like, what are the odds he's going to get that kind of quote unquote, I don't believe in luck, but bad luck or misfortune in a short span of time? It almost seems like someone's trying to off him as well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that whole situation with Mac Miller. I think he was probably sacrificed. Um, I mean, people can get depressed and they can die. I'm not saying, people are above suicide. It's very possible. But I also think that, he could have been, I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. But I don't know too much about him. I didn't follow his music. And I'm not like, I don't know. But let me go back up a little bit here. And Stu May also said, I think the Cabal lead had something on him and he copped out. Perhaps. It is sad, like Lisa's saying. Perpetuan said, looked up Coachella. It didn't look as horrible as I thought. Josh S. said, starting tomorrow, there's a 100 or more days left in the year. Interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, Josh. I mean, it's another reason why September 11th was picked 17 years ago. Walk said, Dazz, if you want me to talk to her and tell her my testimony, I would be glad to do that. Yeah. I will say, though, that she does have a hardened heart. Like, she's very quick. There's just a lot of things about her, but she's very quick to try to say anything religious is a cult. Like, it's a part of a cult. And she went to Catholic private schools and everything, but I definitely think, people like that, they just have a completely warped view of what, God is, and, they focus too much on the people and on the institutions. What has the Matrix said? We all want to experience some bit of the supernatural because it confirms that life is more than we see. Interesting way to put it. What is the Matrix? And, Walk said, I heard Kasich saw on news that McCain was murdered. It could have been a slip up of the tongue. I don't know. Interesting. I know they said he was going in for, I think he had a surgery. I don't know if they said it went well and then he suddenly was dead. Perpetuant said, sending love back to Lisa. And then Andrew C. said, I don't like to entertain conspiracies, but it's interesting how Mac Miller had a music video with him in a coffin alive and the other rapper, that Extinction guy, also had a music video of himself in a coffin. And both of them passed away this year, right? Because I think I remember his name. Yeah, there's been a lot of these, rappers, not necessarily, the biggest rappers, but they've been passing, it's crazy. Terry said, yes, Daz, these celebrities are being blood sacrificed, and it's always the same thing, an overdose. That's stupid. Every celebrity gets that same death, and people believe it. I mean, they sell to us that, when you're a celebrity, it's sex, drugs. It's no longer really rock and roll, but, it's whatever the case is, sex and drugs and crazy music. And then, they'll tell you, well, they just did too much of it, and they ended up dead. They lived fast, and they died young. What has the Matrix said? Regarding sacrifice, there is a spiritual law of sacrifice seen in acts like fasting, and I hear the Satanists know and use them. And I see that Andrew C. is taking more of a skeptical approach to it, saying, Terry, the thing is, unless there's pretty good evidence of the contrary, we should believe the story innocent until proven guilty. What is the Matrix said? Thanks, Josh S. Made me feel even more creeped out by 11s. Black Rain said September is the 7th month. The end of the real year is March. I know a lot of people have said the New Year's on the Hebrew calendar has been moved from near Passover with Nisan, the first day of Nisan, I believe, to September and making it into Rosh Hashanah. I don't know too much about it. Either way, I celebrate both. So I always celebrate the New Year's at some time. It could be this point or that other point. Josh S. said, LOL, my bad, don't be too worried. Stewie May said, I know this is off topic, but does anyone believe that fasting can cure cancer? I've never heard that before, but I mean, I know that, fasting is definitely something very serious, and there's a lot of miracles that can only happen with fasting. I think about Jesus talking about some spirits only being cast out through after a person has fasted. Walk said cult. She doesn't think ghost hunting is not like a cult. She doesn't know what she's getting herself into. I agree. I mean, I was with her actually at an event because part of my job is I go to events and I hand out materials and allow people to know about our food bank and see if anyone's interested in any programs. And she was there with me, and we were at it was like a Christian event, and she like looked over at me and she was like, you know what, when I see stuff like this, I just feel like I'm watching a cult. I'm not the most religious person, but she's always like telling me stories about how she thinks like different little church groups, Christian groups, are like cults. And it really bothers me that she says that stuff because you're right, Walk. I mean, ghost hunting can be its own cult. A cult can be made out of anything. You don't even really need a religion. You can. It doesn't have to be Christianity. There's plenty of cults that involve beliefs that were far from it. I mean, look at I think it was David Koresh with the whole UFO thing. But still, she definitely is always saying things like that. What is the Matrix said? All good, Joshua. Black Rain said Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High and think to change times and laws. And that scripture referring to the Antichrist. Hi, Yeshua's Hearkener. And I see Ayan Yah here. Was that your other username? I think I remember you in chat under that username. Shalom to you. I hope you're all well. And Josh S. said lots of strange stuff with extinction. Yeah. Hi, Eddie Forehand. And Eddie said, "Hey Dazz, thanks for all praying you have done for me. The spiritual attacks have subsided. I'm really happy to hear that. It's always great to hear like how God moves with our prayers." And what is the Matrix said? Celebrity seems to have become a form of a satanic cult. Completely agree. Josh has said, when fasting, your body repairs itself and also releases HGH, human growth hormone. Interesting. I mean, I don't know the science behind fasting, but I'm glad that you're bringing that up, Josh. Yahuwah's Harkener said, celebrities have become the new prophets in our lost generation. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people do listen to them. Like I was saying earlier, I see them more as high priests and priestesses of the occult or of the pagan religions. What is the Matrix said? Fasting is powerful, really powerful. Agreed. Benjamin asked, so can I get taller if I fast, Josh S? Walk said, Dazz, the reason she's acting that way when near Christians is because the demons in her are manifesting and they hate God. She needs deliverance. I mean, yeah, I remember, I've told this story, like, I feel like repetitively a lot, so if you've heard it, you can plug your ears or you can listen again for the millionth time. But I'll never forget, like, it's been 6 years since now, but I remember being in high school. I feel so old now. And I had a teacher who was showing us like a video because I was in a family and life class. I get it mixed up with my college class. It was like a family class where basically you're there to learn about how families work and how to have a good family and yada yada yada. And sort of taking it as an extra elective. And I remember like we were shown this video, and there was just a pastor, and all he was saying toward the beginning of the video is, God wants you to have a great marriage. And immediately, like whenever this pastor starts saying God wants you, this other girl, they both would always gossip. They always had something horrible to say about everybody. Like they would always just talk trash the whole class period with this guy in there. They both start saying, this is making me uncomfortable. I don't believe in God. Turn it off, turn it off. And at first, the teacher ignored it, but they kept doing it so much he turned it off. And they really like had a fit. But there's some people out there who like just any mention of God really stirs them. And, it could be whatever is on them or inside of them. And some people I think are just hurt by people who were affiliated with Christianity, church, or religion. Stewie May said, my dad had bowel cancer. He was in the hospital and refused the treatment. He came home weighing about 7 stones. He was 14 stones when he went in. Thankfully, he's still here, as this was a few years back. I'm really happy to hear that, Stewie. Josh said, if you're younger, it's definitely possible. Chances are, if you're older, I don't think so. I think that's fair to say because I mean, at a certain age, I would say agree with Josh. You stop growing. Stu Mason, I don't believe my dad stopped eating, and I think this saved him. I do believe my dad stopped eating, and I think this saved him. Interesting. Perpetuant said, Josh, are you hating on the older generation? What is the matrix that someone told me about fasting? Start small, one meal, one day, or one item sacrificed for spiritual growth. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, going on a fast like Jesus did is like very, 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 it's a big leap of faith. Josh has said, any Black Rain said, Daniel 7:25 is not about the Antichrist. There are many. It has to do with the laws and time. Interesting. And I agree there are many Antichrists. Josh S. said, anything is possible, but I believe people stop growing taller around the age of 21. Darn it, I'm stuck at this height. I'm stuck here at 5'5". No. I remember there was a time when I was like 5'3 1/4", and I was like 13, and I felt so proud of myself for getting slightly taller than that. And I remember my goal height was to be as tall as my mom because my mom's like 5'7". So I always wanted to be like 5'7", but I never made it up there. Black Rain said, 2 Ezra's 14:10, for the world hath lost his youth, and the times begin to wax old, for the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts it are gone already, and half of the 10th part. And there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part. What has the Matrix said? And what I like to do is read books on fasting while fasting, health, and spiritual. Julie Moss said, I've known personally a lot of people in the music and acting biz, in politics, and used to be very involved in all of it. And it's super liberal stuff that drives these people crazy, and they do really, yeah. I mean, the thing about it is, and not to get too political here, because I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative, I wouldn't identify as a Democrat or Republican here, but, I feel like when it comes to, like, the flaws of liberal ideas, how liberal is too liberal, it's like you're talking about all this freedom and stuff and all this like rights. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I'm against rights. I like the idea of human rights and some forms of civil rights and such, but some people take it to this level where like even people amongst themselves start fighting, and it's just crazy how like I think some people go that way because they feel like there's more freedom and elasticity and liberal ideas. And when you're in the entertainment business, there's so much you have to do to stay relevant, to stay on top. Whether, it's kind of like with the whole Me Too movement. It's been on forever since I even brought it up, but people are still talking about it off and on. I think it's died down a lot of the fanfare with it, but I obviously think it's wrong that people are sexually harassed, but at the same time, some people, they sleep their way to the top intentionally, and then now they want to complain and get revenge against people that they willingly did stuff with. I'm not saying in all cases are people always willing, but a lot of these people wouldn't have the roles they have or wouldn't even have the music videos or the platform they had without having to sell their soul. And part of selling your soul isn't just like writing your name in blood and worshiping the devil. Part of it is sacrificing your self-respect, sacrificing your morals, not being true to your beliefs, giving in to whatever the status quo is, and not having any form of inhibitions. And that's part of selling your soul as well. And so a lot of them did that, and now they want to complain about you know so and so made them, but some of these people did it purposely. And it's true, some of them were scared and all, but still, how many men and women, and when they're children, I don't blame children for what happens to them, but when you're an adult, how many men and women walked away from roles, music deals, and such because they weren't willing to sacrifice their self-respect, they weren't willing to get on the casting couch, and they weren't willing to sing certain things, wear certain things, and do certain things. And that's why I think we're having this explosion of backlash with part of the Me Too movement. I'm sorry to get on a tangent there, but kind of like what Julie was saying, yeah, a lot of that stuff, it drives people crazy after a while. And sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant, so let me see what everyone else is saying. Sue May said, apparently we start to shrink and hide as we get older. LOL can't win. Yep. I'm gonna be, I guess if I'm middle height right now, I guess I'm gonna be a shorter, older lady. Andrew C said, I'm stuck at 7'8", joking, I'm 5'8", LOL. Oh, cool. If you were 7'8", I was gonna say, are you a giant? And then Nixie asked, how tall is your dad? My dad is short. My dad is like 5'6" or 5'5.5". He's literally like about the same height as me. Steven said, praying, and hi, Steven Wilder. I don't remember if I said hi or not. Everyone's popping in the chat, and I want to make sure I'm greeting everyone as they come in. Praying that anyone on the Carolina coastlines are stocked and getting close to God. Yes, actually, that reminds me, toward the end of this stream, let's pray for everyone. Just remind me to pray for anyone who's in the path of that hurricane, because like last time with Hawaii, I believe in praying. Julie said, commit suicide a lot, and I've been through so much as a kid. It took me a long time to get my mind renewed, and all the liberal guilt stuff. I still struggle with relearning what God has for me. Nixie said, I'm 5'9". Oh, wow. So you're like an inch taller than your brother. Okay, this is a weird question, but I've wondered about it, but like, since you both are twins, are you guys identical or are you fraternal? The fact that you have an inch difference, I'm assuming that means you're fraternal, but are you guys identical? Like, if I saw you guys both, would I be able to like tell stark difference? It's just one of those questions. I'm sorry if I annoy you guys with it. I have a little sister and brother. They're both twins. They're not identical because they're a boy and a girl, and most people wouldn't even assume they are twins because they look so different from one another. But I was just wondering about that the other day, actually. And Terry said, pray for me. I need help fasting. I definitely will pray for you. Hi, Max of all. And Max said, congratulations, Dazzling. I hope Yeshua makes it for you to keep on spreading spirit light for another 20 years. That would be amazing. Black Rain said, at the time, Ezra's was 1,500 years ago. We are in the consummation time of 12,000 years. And sorry guys, I don't want to skip anyone's like comments, but when you guys are replying to yourselves, I read a little bit ahead. Sorry if I completely overlooked something. And Lisa's saying true dazzling 100%. What has the Matrix said? And I'm guessing that's in reference to the little rant I went on for a few seconds, or a few minutes, I should say. What has the Matrix said? The first thing I did when I really wanted to fast was start constantly confessing, God, I thank you. You have given me the grace to fast. That's really great advice. Locke is replying to Terry. Max said martial law is coming to the USA. FEMA camps are ready, and all seem to be set for the NWO order first concrete steps. Locke said judgment is coming to America because it has not repented. I would agree with you both. Black Rain said second answer is 14:5 and told him many wondrous things and showed him the secrets of the times and the end and commanded him saying. Max said USA under Satan's authority. Wow. What an acronym. But honestly, it seems like, it goes with Revelation 18. Walk said Ezekiel 8-9 happening right now. And what happens in Ezekiel 8 and 9? Let me look it up real fast. That was the idolatry in the temple and the judgment of the idolaters. Wow. That is crazy to think about. But yeah, I definitely feel like that's happening a lot, even with lots of these disasters. I know it's hurricane season, and I know that natural disasters are going to happen, but still. Julie said, it was super liberal. Do you want all the time? It's a sick way to raise children. It was NYC's liberal Democrats, like it was my family's beliefs. I'm sorry to hear that, Julie. And Stephen said, watching as the Syrian situation gears up, Germany coming on board too. After all, what would World War III be without them? Yeah, I mean, Germany's been involved in all three of World Wars. Walk said, I live in NY, Julie, and see many who are liberal like that. It's hard to raise kids in that state because of it. It's interesting you guys say that because I feel like even, in the Midwest, it's so much different. I went out north to the Northeast again. That's where I was gone last week, and I was out in Massachusetts. And it's such a different world up there in the Northeast. And those of you who live up there, I'm like you guys talk about all of it, and I can definitely see it. Here in the Midwest, it's a completely different culture. And I can remember even the first time I went up to the Northeast was back in May. My first time going up there was this year, and going up there as I'm older is a lot different than when I'm younger. Like when I went out to Los Angeles the last time I was 15, so I have a completely different outlook on it now than I do understanding so much. But I used to be one of those people, and I'll admit this: when I was younger, I wanted to live in a big place. I wanted to live on one of the coasts. I wanted to live either in California or I wanted to live in the Northeast. The more adults I talk to who live in California or who live up in the Northeast or who live down, in bigger cities like Atlanta or in Florida, it's a completely different culture. And some of them almost lament just how different people have changed and just the beliefs. And, it's not very exciting out here in the middle of America, like in Missouri. I'm originally from Nebraska, and, Kansas is like right next door to where I live. It's not the most exciting place to live, but, when I go out to all these different places and I see the different cultures, I appreciate, parts of it, but I always long to be back home in the Midwest. And I think even now, if I had the option to live anywhere and I have the means to support myself, regardless of how high the cost of living was, I might actually still pick the Midwest to live because, just in a way, it's kind of like it's behind the times, I guess, with some of the ideas. And sorry again, guys, to go on the rant. I just had to get it off my chest. And Terry said, in black helicopters flying over Los Angeles. And Nixie said, identical 2-minute difference. Wow, I was right all this time. I imagine you guys were identical. I don't know, maybe I just think you guys were identical because you're Andrew C. and Nixie, and that's probably short for your last name. And then you guys also finish each other's sentences, which is a very twin thing. But I feel like I've finally learned something new. And Nick C said Andrew copied my face. Oh, is that true? So are you the older one, Nick, from Andrew? By 2 minutes? And Lisa said, oh, twins are cool. I agree. What is the Matrix emojis? Twins. Black Rain said in Genesis 6:3 is 120 years, which is Jubilees, or 50 years, or 50 times 126,000 years until judgment or consummation of times, Daniel 7:25. Terry was replying to Walk. Walk said, hey, one of the hurricanes are to be named Isaac. Interesting. That's very interesting, actually. Max said, movies equals truth camouflaged as entertainment. News equals lies camouflaged as truth. So you can learn more watching movies than you can from watching some news channels. Stewie said chemtrails, geoengineering, cloud seeding, SRM, HARP, and X-ray, take your pick. Yep, they definitely have all those methods to mess with the weather as well. Walk said they have to reveal the truth before they do it. Andrew C said, me and Nick split as a sperm cell. I got tired of him in the womb. I had to leave. LOL. You guys are so funny. But you still were together even in the womb. Max said, people of USA, change your dollars, buy properties, or anything with your money. Guys, money is not going to be worth not in 1 year. Yeah, that is my concern is, everyone keeps, there's been all these like cries about the dollar, not being worth a thing. And I really believe that's coming, but the more people say it and then nothing happens, the more comfortable people get. But you can't get too comfortable, as you said, Max. What is the Matrix said, Dazz? How are you? Well, right now I'm doing pretty good. I guess, I don't know, I guess I find it a little random. I'm making sure I'm not skipping any comments from everyone that's replying to each other. Stewie said, I'm so glad I'm not down this rabbit hole on my own. Speaking of rabbit hole, I was just thinking about Craig Gaddis, because I remember he used to say wabbit and being a wabbit hunter and going down the wabbit hole. It put a W instead of an R. I wonder where he's been. I haven't seen or heard from him in like a good couple of months, it seems. Julie said, yes, I live in Cincinnati now since March after a few years in the house my mom had grown up in. It was left to her, so I was in northern Kentucky first for a while because I was sick of NYC insanity. Nick C said, NYC is lit, LOL. And then Stephen Wilder said, Rosh Hashanah ends in Israel at sunset tomorrow. I've been on pins and needles watching, waiting, praying for guidance. And then, what is the Matrix said? It was random, but last week, were you feeling worn? 2 weeks ago. Yes, I was. Last week, I was really worn out. I actually felt like I was going to fall asleep on air. But traveling has helped, as has the break. And I'm going to do something different this time. I am going to take a short break. I don't have any like music or anything to play. So it's going to be silent. You guys can keep chatting in chat. I have to run and do something really fast, so it's going to be silent on my end, but you guys can keep chatting. But I'll be back by, my goal is to be back by 8, but as soon as you hear my voice, you know I'm back. Alright, everyone, I'm back. I try to be back by 8 exactly, and it looks like I made it back, or I guess 9 Eastern Time and 7 Mountain Time and 6 Pacific Time. But let me look back in the chat and see what everyone is up to, has been saying. Alright, so I see Julie saying yay, and it looks like everyone's just kind of been talking. Let's see if anyone new has popped into the chat. Oh, hey Ben, how are you? I saw that he just stepped in now too. And I see you guys are just asking each other questions and talking about where each other live, which is great to see everyone having a good time. It's always nice to see all the interaction in the chat, minus me, because I honestly love it. I see Ben said I'm good. How about you? Yeah, I'm pretty good also. But basically, for those who missed the first hour, who are coming in like Ben is, it's been sort of a random chat and kind of celebrating the 1-year anniversary of streaming, because actually the first stream was on September 11th of 2017. But, tomorrow's actually the year, but it's close enough now on September 10th, and I was making the joke that even last year I missed streaming on the first week of September. Oh, Lisa said dazzling when we're lost without you. Well, it seemed like you guys were doing fine without me. It's good for real to see all of the interaction that was going on. I see you guys are talking about different parts of New York. And yeah, I was up in New York last week, and I thought about some of you guys up there in the Northeast. I was like, it would be so cool if I had time to swing by and see some of you guys, but I was in a rush because I was on a road trip to Massachusetts. It's like a 20-hour drive from KC to where I was headed in Massachusetts, and we got there in about 24 hours with not a lot of time to spare. I skipped NYC altogether. I went through it last time when I went to DC in May, but I was up very far in upper New York, like next to the Canadian border. It was kind of freaky actually for me, because I'm just not used to being that far up there in the country, and there I was, just like when I was in Tucson in March. I was so close to the Mexican border, I was thinking to myself, I could just go to Mexico, just like I could have just went to Canada. And I see, it looks like too, you guys are talking about churches, because Andrew C. said, yeah, Times Square Church is lit, though, I'll tell you that. It's good, though, that you guys are a part of churches in your area. I wish I had a church in my area to go to. I tried out a church like a couple months ago, and it was an okay experience, but I haven't tried any churches in a while. And Stephen Wilder said, welcome back. Time to go for me, night all. Good night, Stephen. And it was nice having you in chat. And what does the Matrix said? Did you sing songs on your road trip? No, I actually didn't. We actually drove in a lot of silence. We tried to find like the radio stations we wanted, but like, when you're going across states, they change so fast. And we were driving like the wind, trying to get my sister there on time. But and I'm not much of a singer, so no, I wasn't singing aloud. Maybe in my head, but not aloud. And I see Waka saying that David Wilkerson founded the church. Julie said, yeah, I need to find a good church or Bible study in Cincinnati. Yeah, it's hard finding a good church, I'll say that. Even when I first came to Kansas City, I was a part of a couple churches over the years. And, they were good when it lasted, but, just differences, and it's just hard to find the right place. What is the Matrix said, Buddha, no songs. Yeah, it was pretty boring in that way, but I mean, I was so focused on the road. I drove 10 hours on Saturday, September 2nd, which was hard because the most I had ever driven before that was maybe like an hour or 2 hours. But yeah, 10 hours straight was pretty difficult. And I drove the flat states like Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. And by the time I got to before I could get to Pennsylvania, my brother took over. But it was nice having multiple drivers. Julie said David Wilkerson, I don't know why I can't speak today, was a good guy. And Andrew C. said facts, Dazz. And I'm guessing he's replying to when I said it's hard driving in silence. I don't remember exactly what I said. Stewie said, my church is my heart. That's so great. I always love when people are plugged into great churches because, like I always say, it's very hard to find that right place. When you find the right place, it's amazing. One thing I'm going to do really fast is I don't think there's many comments on last week's video. I'm going to look over at that and then I'll come back to the chat just because when I miss a week of streaming, then I don't get a chance to address the chat. But it looks like the comment section, there wasn't as many. So for those who missed the video, pretty much there was some creature that was shot by a farmer in Montana back in May, and when it was dead, it didn't really resemble the stereotype of a typical gray wolf. Its like paws were a little short, and it was just oddly formed in some areas. It looked enough like a wolf though, and scientists ruled that it was most likely just a different kind of gray wolf. People came with all kinds of crazy theories, like it's a dire wolf, which is like a prehistoric gigantic wolf. Some people are saying it was a werewolf, and there was just all these ideas about what the thing was. But Chuck Fern said it's a dog that went feral. Christina said, this is interesting. I love learning about cryptozoology. You never know what goes on in this world and what is left not being discovered. I don't know what type of wolf that it is or what happened to it. Either last week or this week, there was a dead rabbit in my driveway with the head ripped off. My mom found it while walking the dog outside in the morning. We didn't know what animal could have done that. It could be a cat, coyote, etc. Whatever attacked it must have eaten the head because it wasn't there. I don't know, but that was weird. It never happened like that right in front of my house before. That is crazy, and that's just so sad that its head was missing. It's like, why take the head off of all things? It just seems so sick. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Lisa said, yikes, great video, interesting. Davina Clark said it was a dire wolf or something else unidentified. They'll never tell us ever. And what is the Matrix said? Welcome back, Senorita Dazz. You sound rested. Interesting topic. Questions. LOL, it's 111. Do you have an inner or outer sense of what you were led to discuss this topic? Inner like spiritual insight or outer like sensory trigger? And second, do that. You didn't define cryptid. I never heard of that word, but let me double check before talking smack. And yeah, cryptid is, for those who are into urban legends and cryptozoology and any forms of like paranormal stuff, cryptid is pretty much just any creature that doesn't fit into the common classifications of zoology, like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. That's a cryptid pretty much. And now that I addressed those, jumped over again, let me see what everyone else is saying in the chat. And Andrew C. said, hard finding a church that has all the doctrine you believe. Yes, it is so hard. It is very difficult. Ben said, my church would just confuse people as I would make it in the front of Denny's, but in the back it's like a cathedral, LOL. Oh, Ben. Stewie said, I was brought up in a Methodist church, but I struggle to align to any church, but I hope one day I find a great one. It's difficult. It really is. And what has the Matrix said? Few favorite Christian songs, classic or modern? A lot of the Christian music that I've listened to has been like contemporary Christian music. I'll say, even though I know there's a lot of, it's kind of sad, but I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories about DC Talk, but they still are like my favorite band of all times. I love all their music even to this day. My favorite song of all time is "Consume Me" by them. Um, and nowadays, there's lots of. I like this song. I'm thinking right now. There's a lot of songs that I like that are contemporary Christian music songs, but um, I'm still thinking of like old school Christian music as well. I grew up with a lot of it, but that's one of my classic favorites, at least. And What is the Matrix said, those were some quality comments, but it was spontaneous that I arrived at your video at 111. You're always finding the 111. And What is the Matrix said, Jesus Freak. Oh, yes. Are you talking about in reference to DC Talk? I love that song. And Stewie said, did you see the Daily Mail UK paper article about saying that young people's blood is consumed by the elite rich? No, I did not. I did not see it. Let me look it up right now. Is it this one? Dracula was onto something. Top scientist claim transfusions of young blood will put an end to sickness and old age. Interesting. UCL scientists have presented data showing mice given young blood did not develop age-related diseases at the end of their lives. Conversely, mice given old blood did develop age-related disease. Peter Thielbach, startup Ambrosia, has been testing this in humans. Patients paid $8,000 to be involved and saw a 10% slash in cholesterol. It also cut levels of protein seen in high amounts of dementia patients by a fifth. I'm not too surprised by that. I mean, it would be an excuse to openly do stuff like that. Walk said, I'm self-taught with a computer, so it's slow. Ben says, Bible never says you can't eat while praying. True. And What is the Matrix said? 9/11. And Andrew said prophet, question mark. Oh, in reply to what Walk was saying about we are prophets unto him, I had a dream of judgment coming to America. We are all our prophets. And it looks like What is the Matrix said, I have a special interest in dreams interpreting. And that's awesome. I wish I was better at interpreting dreams. There's so many dreams that I've had that I've always wondered the meaning of them. Maybe you have the gift like Joseph had to interpret dreams. What is the Matrix? But it looks like I've caught up with the comments that are direct. Stewie said on a lighter note, I'm dipping biscuits in my tea. I never tried that before. What kind of tea are you having, Stewie? And what has the Matrix said? Share one. Share a dream to be interpreted? Is that what you're asking? I've had so many odd dreams that I don't know. I don't know which one to pick. I'm trying to even remember what I dreamt a couple nights ago. Hi, Stephen Buckner. How are you? I see that he said, hello, I'm new to the stream. It's nice to have you. It's always great having new faces, reoccurring faces, faces we haven't seen forever. Andrew C said, I'm eating a BLT, just throwing that out there. What's a BLT? Sorry for my ignorance. And Stewie said, PG tips tea. And Steven said, I'm fine, how are you? Pretty good. And what does the Matrix say? Dreams are like luggage of pictures telling us a story. They always make sense when they don't make sense. And Steven said you have some great votes. I'm guessing videos. Because I know autocorrect can like really mess up the message. Because I'm like, as far as I know, I haven't had any votes. I'm not running for office at all. I'm just kidding. Andrew C said a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich. Oh. Sounds really delicious. Stewie said, sorry, get random. It's alright. This whole stream is random. It's all good. Lisa's like, I'm getting hungry again. Walk is like, now I want bacon. It's nice that you guys are hungry. I ate dinner before coming on air. And today I caved and I ate some food at like a new restaurant that just opened. And between that and what I ate for dinner, I'm starting to feel really, really like I have a stomach ache. So I'm like the exact opposite. I'm like, my stomach is in pain, but you guys are hungry, which is nice that you're actually hungry. I just don't think I ate a good mix of food. I actually have a very sensitive stomach, so I'm always having to be careful what I eat and what I mix together. And I forgot I had a milkshake from that restaurant, and I love milkshakes, but like, I don't know, sometimes they toss my stomach really bad. So, yeah. Sorry if that was TMI for some of you. And Andrew C said, Oreos, anyone? Oreos are good. I love Oreos, but right now Oreos feel like they would really kick my stomach even. Nick C said, we gotta go study for a quiz by 11. Bye, fam. Have a blessed night. It was nice having you, Nick and Andrew, and I hope you both have a good night. Lisa's crying. And Andrew said, Sally, gotta go. Gotta do this trash quiz by 11. No, it's all right. You gotta get your grades. Get good grades. Stay in school, kids. Julie said, is replying to Stewie. Steven said, you have some great videos, very enlightening. Thanks, Steven. And I'm glad to hear like they're of help to you and to others. It's always a great thing, like when people tell me, because sometimes I do videos, I pray about them, I'm like, am I sure about this? And then it's always great to hear the feedback of how it's of a help to people. Or maybe it's something that, you had been dealing with or someone else, and it's like an answer to a prayer or a question they had inside of their head. And I see that Nick said, give a shout out at the closing prayer, LOL. What do you want my shout out to say? And Andrew C said, night, y'all. See you both later. Walk said, this weather is making me so sleepy. Is it like cloudy out where you are? Or is it more rainy? Because I know last Friday when I returned from the Northeast back to the Midwest, it rained and was foggy, and that weather made me so tired. Between that and having driven so many hours, I got so tired. I love how Lisa tells him to study hard. And Walk said it's raining, cold and rainy. Yeah, that's the perfect recipe to curl up in bed, have some coffee or some tea, and just like sleep. or read a book or write something. Well, the good news is that, as after the stream is over, or if you want to go to bed early, it's the nighttime, so it's the perfect time to be sleepy at night. What does the Matrix said? Study smart. That is important too. Stephen asked, "What made you start studying conspiracies?" That's a good question. It's been one I haven't been asked a long time. In a long time. So for me, basically, it all started like back in 2011, November of 2011, when I was still in high school, because before then, it's not like I believed everything I saw on TV, because I have always been surrounded by people that were a bit skeptical. But at the same time, it wasn't like I was necessarily trying to go down the rabbit hole and question every little thing that I saw. It helped me a lot too, as I've mentioned, growing up, like even with music and everything. I did have a time in life where I went through, like wanting to be more into what everyone else is in, especially in high school, like listen to the music everyone else was listening to. But from like my elementary to early high school years, I listened to mainly contemporary Christian music, which was already like not the norm or the popular thing to listen to. And I never was really into celebrity culture as much. But when I got to high school and I got a little bit more leniency from my parents to, watch and listen to some of this stuff as I was older, and also just with the computer and phone, or I guess in my case, iPod, it was easier to look up stuff and see it without necessarily anyone knowing. I like, as I got into some of it, began hearing stories from some of my classmates like, yeah, I've heard stories that, these celebrities sell their soul to Satan and everything. And I was curious about it because, I've always believed in God for the most part in my life. Growing up in a home where, the belief in God was nothing strange. But when I actually heard these stories, I went to YouTube to look up the Illuminati. And I can remember, like, I couldn't get a lot of results. And the first result I got was the Illuminati in the music industry. So naturally, I went and I looked into okay, what is this? And the documentary was really mind blowing. I saw celebrities who had been classics like Michael Jackson, and then just people that I didn't really know of too well, how their music really was talking about ancient satanic beliefs. And so after I watched that documentary, I was a little bit creeped out. I'm not going to lie, with the whole Rain Man references and that the celebrities are immoral, that they're showing too much skin and that they're cussing and that they're living decadent lives, but to actually think of them as devil worshippers is a little alarming. So I remember the first night I watched a documentary being a little bit unable to sleep. And after I saw that, I was hooked. I began watching more videos. I was really into conspiratainment culture, as I call it. I loved looking at all the exposés of music videos and stuff. And it gave me a sense of knowledge. And eventually, as I got older, I branched more into politics and conspiracy theories and weather modification conspiracy theories. And that's sort of where I got my start. And it wasn't until I was in my first year of college when I decided to put out my first video. But it took me from between the ages of just turning, actually, I was 17. I said 16 because I was 17 at the end of 2011. Yeah, because it was my senior year of high school. I graduated in 2012. So, yeah, between 17 and 19, and also, and by 19, that's when I uploaded my first video to YouTube. So that's kind of my journey of how I got it and stuff. And sorry to ramble on, but let's see what everyone is saying. And Walk said, Dazz, most people your age are not awake to this stuff. You are blessed. And yeah, I do feel blessed because, it's so hard. I was talking to my coworkers today, and I know I keep going back to work, but I work with all women in office, and they're all millennials. One is 29, one is 27, one is 22, the other's 23, and I'm 23, almost 24 in a few days. So everyone is roughly within, good 5 years of my age. And so it's interesting because, they've grown up in this conspiratainment culture and everything. And even today, we got on the topic of the dark web. And it all started with the same coordinator I mentioned earlier who wanted to go ghost hunting and talking about possession and stuff. She started talking about the dark web. She was talking about unboxing videos and how there's these unboxing videos on YouTube about the dark web and how people went and got these boxes from it and all this creepy stuff. And so they were talking about yeah, do you think people from the dark web can find you? And they were all freaking out and stuff. And it was one of those moments where I was sort of I don't know how much I should or should not say about the things that I kind of know about, because I don't advertise to everyone I meet I know a bit about conspiracy theories. But when they were talking about some of it, I mentioned to them, well, it's not too much of a surprise considering WikiLeaks revealed back in 2017 that our televisions could be used to watch us, which we had been saying for years in the truther community and conspiracy theorists, as they called us. But for people that weren't necessarily believing, that was news for them. And it's crazy to see how the stuff that you kind of were mocked for believing and called paranoid and a tinfoil hat wearer has now become the norm. People know of these things without having to really search YouTube as hard. And Steven said, I started in 2011 as well. That's awesome. High five to starting in 7 years ago now, almost 8. I guess 7 years for me because I'm coming up on November soon. And Walk said, kids in public schools are not awake. Yeah, I mean, public schools are designed to get you to think anything but what, you learn if you go down that rabbit hole. And Steven said, so did I watch documentaries about it. Those documentaries were helpful. I'll always say, those people who created them in 2009 through 11, I'll say 2009 to 14 period, there were some really groundbreaking documentaries that I know I wouldn't be talking to you guys here if I hadn't come across them. And there's many other people who are awakened from those documentaries as well. Walk said, my daughter graduated in 2011 and she doesn't believe in any of this stuff. That's sad. I mean, a lot of people don't because, it's kind of considered taboo, or you're considered weird if you don't believe. I mean, if you do believe in it. And Steven said, exactly, my family put me on, and as I walk the rabbit hole now, I'm the crazy one, LOL. Steven also said, I'm definitely still on the red pill. Stewie May said, I broke my social conditioning and took the red pill. Steven said, I graduated from high school in 2011. Oh, nice. So both you and Walk's daughter graduated the same year, graduated a year after. So roughly around the same age. Ben said, for me, I just stumbled upon different vids, then found you. I think there was some other YouTubers, can't remember now. It's always interesting, the story stumbles on it, it through YouTube. And it's funny how through watching others, you found my content. And Steve May said, wow, happy birthday, Dazz. Have a great one. Thanks. It's actually in 18 days, but thanks for the early birthday wish. Today are brainwashed social media big time. Yeah, social media really does a number. And it's crazy how a lot of people actually get their news. Most people I talk to that are millennials and Gen Z, they get their news more so from social media than they do from, watching the television. What is the Matrix said? I posted my first YT vid this week, working on the Awesome God remix, but the software lag is tedious. Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to check that out. I always say that, but I really need to do it. What is the Matrix said? FYI, it's weird. Lisa said, yes, dear, I know the feelings. Dewey May said, I learned most conspiracies from YouTube, but I see YouTube being scrubbed quickly. It has really been scrubbed, and there's a lot more controlled opposition now. Like, now the go-to people for conspiracy theories are like Shane Dawson. But it's the Matrix. It's most weird to see what is going on. This symbol and signs are everywhere. I think it's hardcore witchcraft. Very true. Steven said, I used to study black conscious people that taught me Egyptology. Turns out that they are con artists. It's all a game. Both sides are controlling us with occult symbols and magic. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get into that stuff. And, a lot of people, it's crazy too, because, it's like you're talking about freedom, but yet you're using occultism to talk about freedom. And I think some people, they fall in love with the occultism that they learn was used to control them. And I feel like I've seen that even amongst people just like exposing the witchcraft behind it. That's why, over the years, even though I've talked about some of it, I've tried to walk that line carefully because it's easy to get into it if you're not careful. Stewie May said, being awake is a burden, but we must carry on and help awaken others, plant seeds, people. Very true. And Stephen said, it's the Hegelian dialectic. Very true. And God is the Alpha and the Omega, children of God said, yes, it's witchcraft. Absolutely, we are surrounded. Yeah, it's very crazy how it's just so hard. And two, even with the truth, there's just been a lot of infiltration of the information with, people from the occult leading people into the occult through helping them by exposing things. So you just have to be so careful. And that's why, I would say, it's important to understand, the message of Jesus Christ, because if you don't, it's easy to get lost in the signs and symbols and knowledge and worship that instead. And I'm going to run and take one more break very fast. You guys can chat among yourselves. All right, everyone. I'm sorry to run away on you all. So let me look at what everyone's been saying. So it looks like Walk went to sleep, and I didn't get a chance to say goodnight to her, but it was great having her in chat as well. And I see you guys are talking about colors and frequencies and Hegelian dialectic and German philosophy. And what is the Matrix of saying? And we, as a society, largely know what spells and witchcraft are. And Stephen was saying that colors have frequency. What is the Matrix said that he preferred Kant. Stephen said every time I see red and blue or black and white, all deals with masonry. Lisa's was still thinking about the bacon. And Stephen said red has a higher frequency than blue. Red deals with hot and blue deals with cold. That makes me think, though, like, what do you make of, I mean, again, I guess I don't know about what they say about stars. They claim it's the reverse. And Lisa said, I do believe they have vibrations. Stewie said, I see like the stars that are moving away are red and others are blue. And Stephen said, duality, that's part of the program. And Stephen said, Democrats equal blue, Republicans red. They really do love those colors. Well, it's the opposite. White is black and black is white. They switch the meanings. And Stewie May said, yes, it's the same in the UK. Blue is conservatives and red is Labour. Democrats. It's interesting how it's reversed, Stewie. And Stewie said, white is made up of every color, I thought. And what is the Matrix said, what we all can seem to agree for sure on is that they're working symbols that affect the mind minimum. Very true. And Lisa said, as the Antichrist is truly the devil, yep. And Stephen said, black is made up of every color. And what does the Matrix said? There are 11 in this chat, my phone says. You're always finding the 11s. What is the Matrix? What does the Matrix said? We were socially like boiling lobsters. And I see Stewie's mentioning the 666 Google logo. And Ben said, you guys ever looked into number stations? They are pretty cool topics. When you say number stations, what do you mean, Ben? And Stephen said there are two versions of Freemasonry, Scottish Rite, New York Rite. And Stewie said stars that are traveling away are reddish and stars that are closer are blue. That is if the Earth's not flat. Ben said no, there are radio stations that have been active since the Cold War, at least maybe longer, as they play sequences of sound like numbers or certain songs, which are the meanings not revealed. Interesting. I've never heard of those before. It's really fascinating if you look at everything, even like what Steven was mentioning about colors and vibrations. It makes me think about even how they talk about people who are colorblind or able to like, I don't remember, like sense colors in a different way. Maybe it's the vibrations he's referring to. Stewie said, yeah, number stations, I heard that wasn't there one in Russia. Frequencies are their own just interesting topic altogether. What is the Matrix said? Live today feels so much like a Black Mirror Twilight Zone episode. You know, when it comes like this, I was just thinking about even the show Black Mirror, like the title of it. So most of you guys know what a black mirror is, a scrying mirror. But I thought about even like the genius of the name because, you know, he's talking about all of these, how technology is affecting the future and all of this odd stuff that can happen as a result of it. And, you know, most of our screens are built with black mirrors. But even like the show is telling you it's like a black mirror that's showing you the future like a crystal ball or a scrying mirror. I just thought that's interesting. But pretty much it is like the Twilight Zone of today. And Ben said there are a ton in Russia and Europe and the UK. And Steven said we've always lived in the Twilight Zone. What has the Matrix said? Frequencies are fascinating. Ben said I've listened into certain number stations online as there are websites to listen into shortwave and longwave frequencies. And Lisa said I have not seen that it's a show. Yeah, it is a show. I think it's a Netflix show. I don't have Netflix. And Lisa said I know about the witch mirrors. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. And Steven said our phone screens are black mirrors. Yep. It's crazy too because we look to them for so much information as well. It's so odd when you get into all of this stuff and like what it means today, but so much of technology is modeled after mysticism and is modeled after old pagan beliefs. I know this to be a fact. I'll just tell you guys this because I did a video. This is a little off topic, but it has to do with mirrors. So I remember like a few months ago, I did a video on mirrors and portals. And at the time, I was asking it more so as a question. But personally, when I go to any hotels, I notice that they always make it so that your mirror it faces your bed, or at least one of the beds, sometimes both of the beds. I personally do not like sleeping in front of mirrors. I'll pray about it. I prefer to cover it up, but I've had some really bad stuff happen to me at night while sleeping in front of mirrors. So I refuse to sleep in front of a mirror if I can help it. Sometimes I can't, but I always pray like beforehand. I try to pray every night regardless, but I don't like sleeping in front of mirrors because I do feel like there's a reason why they're stuck in front of a lot of hotel beds. And I feel like it's weird. Like, why would you want a mirror in front of your bed, honestly, to watch yourself sleep? But that's just my take on it. I wasn't always like this, but some recent experiences have really led me not to be comfortable with mirrors in front of the bed. And let me look at what everyone is saying. Steven said when people are doing spells on YouTube, those spells can be cast to you. And yeah, that's why I like, it's so, we got to be so careful about staying away from certain people's videos. Stewie May said, yes, it's sad that my laptop is a black mirror too. Sometimes I want to go tech free, but it's impossible in today's society. Now, I understand what you're saying, Stewie. Lisa said, I love your videos, dazzling one. Thank you. What has the Matrix said? In this day and age, the eternal word of God can shine through the pseudo words of the devil and satanic culture supernaturally. Very true. Steven said, my mirrors are on the side of my bed. And Lisa said, me too, dazzling one. I hate mirrors. And Steven said, don't fear the mirrors. I agree you shouldn't fear mirrors, but I'm just going to say this. I've had some nightmares, tears while sleeping in front of mirrors and I don't sleep in front of mirrors regularly. And I've always felt like there was something that came from a certain direction, and I always sensed it was the mirrors. There's just something in me that knew. So that's why I stay away from them while sleeping, at least. But I'm thankful, though, that I do know, like, I am able to pray, because if I wasn't, I don't know what would happen. Stewie said I have one mirror in the bathroom, and that's enough for me. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of mirrors except for my bathrooms as well. I've like again, I don't have like a just like I love mirrors actually, like looking in them and stuff, seeing like even though I admit that sometimes like I don't know, like I don't have anything against mirrors, but when it comes to sleeping in front of them, there's just something that I found off about the whole ordeal. And I don't know if anyone else can vouch for what I'm saying here, but anymore now people don't even need to use mirrors because they can use their cameras on their phones or tablet or whatever they have to look at themselves. And that sort of reminds me, speaking of cameras and looking at oneself, how today when we were talking about the dark web, how like one girl mentioned how she was on her laptop and suddenly the camera came on by itself and she could see herself being recorded and how she freaked out. Her mom was around too, and I don't remember what they did, but they hurried up and put like a sticky note over the camera. And I've heard stories of people's like cameras coming on randomly while they're doing something. I guess I'm not worth spying on because that doesn't really happen to me with like any of my laptops or computer. I cover my computer camera up whenever I'm not using it to like film. And you guys know I'm like not the kind of camera person anyway, so it's usually covered up 90% of the time. But also, there have been times where like I've picked up my tablet or phone and the camera was on by itself. And I don't know, maybe someone has been hacking into it. You just have to be so careful with that as well. I don't know. I was going on a tangent with cameras, but you just have to be careful. Stewie said, I wonder when mirrors were invented. I don't know. I know that before mirrors, people used water to look at their reflection. I guess before then, you wouldn't know. It would be interesting to think about how our perception of self would be different how if we didn't look in the mirror all the time. Because every morning, at least for me, I get up and I can look in the mirror and see myself getting ready, as most people can. Lisa said, I feel like we might look up and see something in the mirror that's not visible in the room. LOL, creepy. Yeah, definitely. Steven said, I don't know why people go on the dark web. Those people are wild. I agree. Um, and I see later Steven said, I believe the dark web is ran by the U.S. government. Yeah, it's been proven that the military created the dark web, and the CIA even searches for new recruits with a encryption puzzle that they have people crack called Cicada 330, and um, horrible stuff goes on there, but they never put a stop to it. Julie said people used to tell kids who were doing LSD not to look in the mirror or they would see your face melting or have a very bad trip. Interesting. I never heard that one before. Stewie said onions and Tor dark web. Ben said the only reason I'll go on the dark web is to buy dolphins for thousands of dollars. You're going to be one of those people with like exotic animal pets. You're going to have dolphins in your backyard or like in a special aquarium. And what is the Matrix? Wait, what? Yeah, the topics have kind of like shifted. And Julie said, looking into the water is like the story of Narcissus. Yeah, it is, because he fell in love with his own reflection while looking in the water at it. So I'm going to stop and pray. And then with the remaining time, I'll address any comments or questions anyone has in the chat. Father, thank you again for another wonderful evening and ability to come together and talk. Thank you for the stream going an entire year and for everyone that stopped by or who just listened in. I just pray that everyone would have a wonderful week. I did pray about Terry. He said he wanted direction and guidance in his life. And also, we pray for North Carolina and all of the southern and possibly northeastern states that are in the pathway of Hurricane Florence and any other hurricanes with hurricane season going on. We just pray, Lord, that you would protect those and get a hold of those who need you before this storm hits. And also, I just pray for anyone right now who's going through any tough financial times, any struggle to pay a house payment, rent, or just finding a place, anyone who's struggling education-wise or with work. We just pray you'd bring people closer to you and break any strongholds, especially in the realm of addiction or any sort of stubbornness or rebellion. And I just pray that we'd be drawn closer to you each day and that everyone would have a wonderful week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Oh, and one other thing I forgot, because Nick, I don't know what Nick and Andrew want me to pray about, but help them to do well on their quiz that they're taking. And anyone else who's taking a quiz test and needs help with it. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. But yeah, it's awesome that we're able to come together and Stephen, looking back up here, said they want chaos. What is the Matrix? Said, wow, that happened to me, the mirror gazing. Like the mirror gazing with the LSD or something else. Ben said, if I could have dolphins, my barbecues would be so cool. Stewie said, I confess I took LSD and yes, the mirror melting is true. Interesting. I wonder why that does it. I mean, I believe drugs are pharmakia and, you know, you get in contact with the spiritual world very fast that way. Steven said, I never took LSD, me either. I've actually been good and like I haven't done any drugs. I've drank but not been drunk before, and I've stayed away from drugs probably from all of the bad experiences I've had with paranormal stuff that I don't even want to like risk having one with drugs when I'm not in the right state of mind. Julie said, and God bless you next year too, Dazz. Thank you. What is the Matrix said? Let it be so. And Stewie May said, amen, God bless. And Lisa said, thank you, Dazzling One, beautiful prayers. What is the Matrix of prayer? Shout out to all the students. Yep. Julie Moss and Stephen were saying amen. Stephen said, trust me, I won't. Julie said, this stream is so peaceful to me. Thank you, Daz, and everyone. Stephen said, the only thing I've done is weed. A lot of people I know have, especially in this generation. Josh S. said, God bless everyone. Good chat tonight. And Ben said, I've only smoked a little weed, but only once. And it's confession time. I'm just kidding. Julie said, especially hallucination-inducing drugs. Yeah, I definitely would not want to play with those. I've had enough craziness in my lifetime without being under the influence. And what is the Matrix said? Play and consume me now. Awesome. It's good to know. And Lisa said, many blessings to you all. Hugs. Thank you, always, Dazzling One. Thank you, everyone. And it was great seeing all of you. And I'll talk to you guys in next Monday's live stream, week 45. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful, blessed week. Take care.